The Fever and the Aces just delivered one of the wildest back-and-forth playoff clashes we've seen, from a shocking blowout in Game 1 to a whistle-filled war in Game 2. We'll break down how Indiana stunned the defending champs, how Vegas came back swinging, and the hidden battles that defined this series so far. Stick around for the full story, because this matchup is turning into something no fan can afford to miss. Game 1 wasn't just basketball, it was a message. The Indiana Fever walked into Las Vegas, the home of the defending champions, and flipped the script on everyone watching. From the opening tip, Indiana looked composed and in control. Kelsey Mitchell stole the spotlight with the game of her life, dropping 34 points and punishing the Aces every time they left her an inch of space. The Fever didn't panic, didn't get caught up in Vegas's pace, and instead slowed the game into their style: sharp ball movement, disciplined defense, and an energy that felt unshakable. Even A'ja Wilson, who was being celebrated as MVP, couldn't find answers. She finished with 6 makes on 22 attempts, a performance that showed frustration more than dominance. The result wasn't a nail-biter, it was a 16-point blowout that sent shockwaves through the league. Indiana wasn't here just to make the playoffs. They were here to prove they could dismantle the best, and Vegas wasn't going to forget it. Game 2 was supposed to be Vegas's response, but instead of a clean fight, it turned into a whistle-fueled mess. From the very start, the referees set a tone that nobody could ignore. 41 fouls were called in total, with 16 jammed into a single quarter. That's not playoff intensity, that's chaos disguised as basketball. Indiana's strength is speed, rhythm, and ball movement, but constant stoppages ripped their identity apart. Every time the Fever built momentum, another whistle dragged them back into half-court sets they never wanted to run. Meanwhile, the Aces thrived in the disorder, marching to the free throw line possession after possession, while Indiana fought for calls that never came. Steph, Boston, and Clark all voiced the same frustration after the game. It's impossible to play when the flow is broken every 10 seconds. The Fever weren't beaten by superior execution. They were smothered by a game that refused to let them breathe. And the whistles, as frustrating as they were, weren't the only problem. If there was one player who embodied Indiana's fight in Game 2, it was Lexie Hull. She shouldn't even have been on the floor. Her back was already banged up from Game 1, and most players would have sat out. Instead, she strapped in and delivered one of the gutsiest performances of the postseason. From the moment she checked in, Vegas made her the target. Every screen carried extra contact, every cut ended with a shove, and she hit the floor more times than anyone should in a single night. A'ja Wilson and her teammates seemed determined to test whether Hull would break, but instead of folding, she answered in the only way she could, by hitting shots. 5 three-pointers rained down, tying a Fever playoff record and forcing Vegas to respect her no matter how much punishment they dished out. Hull admitted afterward that she was sore, relying on constant treatment just to get through the game. But on the court, none of that mattered. Her performance wasn't just scoring, it was defiance. After her Game 1 explosion, Vegas knew exactly who they had to stop: Kelsey Mitchell. In Game 2, the Aces threw everything at her. Double teams, traps off screens, and constant pressure denied her the ball or forced her into impossible angles. Every time she crossed half court, a second defender lurked, daring the Fever to find someone else to carry the load. The strategy worked. Mitchell, who had torched Vegas with 34 points just days earlier, never found her rhythm. Her drives were cut off before they started, her jumpers contested by long arms, and when she did shake free, contact met her at the rim. Indiana's offense, usually fueled by her bursts of scoring, sputtered without its spark. Vegas didn't just defend Mitchell, they built their entire game plan around erasing her. And while Indiana searched desperately for another option, the Aces gained confidence with each possession. The message was clear: if Mitchell couldn't breathe, the Fever's offense would suffocate. While the box score told one story, the real battle was unfolding under the rim. Vegas didn't just win Game 2 with whistles or defensive schemes, they won it with relentless work on the glass. Time and again, Indiana forced tough shots, only to watch second chances slip away. Offensive rebounds piled up for the Aces, each one a dagger to Indiana's defensive effort. Instead of quick transitions that fueled their attack in Game 1, the Fever were stuck scrambling as Vegas extended possessions. A'ja Wilson, Jackie Young, and the Aces frontcourt crashed the boards with a physicality that left Indiana outmuscled. Aaliyah Boston fought, but too often she was surrounded, boxing out one body only to see another slip in for the putback. Those extra possessions turned into easy points and fouls that tilted momentum. It wasn't flashy, but it was decisive. Vegas didn't just score, they controlled time itself, dictating the game through rebounding dominance. All eyes were on Caitlin Clark, but in Game 2, her presence was quieter than anyone expected. Vegas had clearly studied her tendencies, meeting her at the arc with aggressive closeouts and shadowing her every cut. The result was a night where she struggled to create separation, finishing with just 8 shots taken. For a player used to dictating tempo and sparking momentum with deep threes or laser passes, it was like being trapped in a cage. Every pick and roll saw an extra defender hedge her way, daring her teammates to make plays instead. Clark still found ways to contribute a few assists here, a timely rebound there, but the usual electricity was missing. For long stretches, she looked more like a decoy than the centerpiece of Indiana's attack. It wasn't lack of effort, but sheer suffocation by a defense determined to cut off her oxygen. Game 2 reminded everyone, even superstars can be muted when the right scheme is executed to perfection. Beneath the noise of fouls and frustration, Game 2 was also a duel between two benches. Becky Hammon adjusted with precision, shifting Vegas's defensive schemes to suffocate Mitchell and Clark while exploiting Indiana's weaker rotations. Her decision to trap high screens forced the Fever into rushed passes and broken sets, and when Indiana tried to counter by spreading the floor, Vegas responded with physical switches that denied easy looks. On the other side, Christy Sides searched for answers. She rotated lineups, leaned on Hull's hot hand, and tried to free Mitchell with off-ball actions, but the rhythm never returned. Every adjustment seemed to meet a sharper counter. Where Indiana thrived in Game 1 with discipline and patience, Game 2 showed the price of inexperience. Vegas didn't just rely on talent, they used strategy to bend the game to their will. It wasn't only players deciding the outcome, it was a chess match, and in this round, Hammon's moves proved decisive. Even in a game where nearly everything tilted against them, the whistles, the boards, the defensive pressure, the Fever refused to fold. Lexie Hull's shooting, Boston's fight on the glass, and Clark's effort to stay engaged kept Indiana within striking distance longer than they had any right to be. Time after time, when it looked like Vegas might bury them, Indiana clawed back with a timely stop or a three that silenced the crowd. Their body language told the story. Frustration was there, but so was resolve. This wasn't a team content to accept defeat, it was a team learning how to absorb blows and keep swinging. For a young roster, those lessons matter as much as wins. By the final buzzer, Indiana had been tested in ways Game 1 never forced them to face. And while the scoreboard showed a loss, the deeper truth was clear. The Fever were hardening, building the toughness they'd need for the battles still to come. With the series tied, everything now shifts to what comes next. Indiana has already proven they can dismantle the defending champions, but Game 2 reminded them of the fine margins that define playoff basketball. The whistles, the boards, the defensive traps, all of it combined into a blueprint they'll need to solve. For the Fever, the challenge is not just tactical but mental. Can they hold their composure when the game slows, when the flow breaks, when stars are taken out of rhythm? For Vegas, the mission is simpler. Keep leaning on their experience, keep dictating the terms of play, and trust that their physicality wears Indiana down. But the bigger story is what's at stake. A young Fever team is growing up in real time, forced to adapt against the league's best, while the Aces are fighting to prove their dynasty is far from finished. The road ahead isn't just about wins and losses. It's about who bends, who adjusts, and who rises under the brightest lights.